Good morning, guys. Sorry about that. We have been having problems at this end, and very, very sorry. Danny, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Um, Tell everybody about yourself.
My name's Danny. I always wanted to be a designer as a kid, and I went to an all-boys public school that was also a sports college. And the chance for me being a designer from that school was very slim. So there wasn't much encouragement or support for me to take it up, which actually led me into a big career in financial services. And now I run a design studio in Cirencester with a beautiful wife called Caroline, and just had our second child 10 weeks ago. We've got two boys. And really just, it's amazing what happens when you finally do what you feel like you've always been meaning to do, how your mindset and brain shifts to not being about you anymore, but being about everyone else. So yeah, I love what I do and love who I work with. And yeah, it's a bit about me.
Brilliant. Congratulations on your new one.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it throws all kinds of spanners in the works, but actually I'm in my conservatory right now because I've been moving kids' rooms around and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, throws all kinds of spanners in the works, but all worth it, of course.
So, because it's like anybody when they're starting schooling and everything, the trouble is you can be at school, but the trouble is at the end you can take all the exams, but it doesn't mean that you can get a job, does it?
It's like it's a path, isn't it? It's like a stepping stone, So, and I think the problem that we have is that because we generally don't know what we want to do when we're at school, we don't know what we want to do after. There isn't that stepping stone. We don't know what to do to get to that stage. If someone said right from the beginning, I want to be whatever, a doctor, for example, you already know the stepping stones you need to go on. But because we don't have that like self-awareness or sense of what we really want to do, we don't know the steps to get there. So we just don't bother, and we get bored of school and exams don't make sense and all the rest of it. So, and I was the same. I was just like, because even though I'm a designer and I've run my own businesses and stuff, I've completely self-taught. I've never done a graphic design exam in my life. So yeah, I guess exams are great as a stepping stone because you need to know what you need to get to the next step. But they're not the be-all and end-all. I think more work could be done around helping kids get self-awareness and to give them the confidence to try things and to try a lot of things. I think a lot more work could be done around that than figuring out how to pass the next exam just to make sure the school's on a good league table kind of thing.
Oh gosh, my school wasn't on a good league table. It was falling to bits. It was horrible, my school. Um, because the trouble is, I'm looking at your kind of like borrow here now, and you kind of like you were running a tattoo shop.
Oh yeah. So I was a tattoo artist for a number of years. I ran a tattoo shop in Birmingham for a couple of years. But it's not, if you go to a tattoo shop now, it's like a staple of culture. People want to go and get a tattoo because it represents something. Back when I was doing it, it was basically an excuse to do deals out the back door and to look hard if you were going to prison. That was literally it. So I would sit in the tattoo shop, and it wasn't just me. I had a partner in there who was my kind of mentor, the person who taught me how to be a tattoo artist, and we kind of went in it together. And there were deals being done out the back door I didn't know about, and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's a great thing now because it's a bit of a culture statement. But back then it was very different. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember one day this guy came in and he was like, I want to get some tattoos. And he literally just put a circle of cash about this big on the table and said, I need to get some tattoos done. I'm going to prison tomorrow. and I'm not going in there without some ink. That was literally what he said. And we sat down from, I think it was about 9:30 in the morning till about 3 in the morning the next morning. He drank about 1.5 bottles of rum. And at the end of it, left, and that was it. Never saw him again. But I think he left a big wad of cash on the table. And I think it was between about 4 and 5 grand for a day's work. So I'll always remember that.
Great, brilliant. And also you're a mortgage advisor.
Yeah, it's very different again. So
Yeah.
you're getting the feeling now, the sense that my life's been a bit up and down and round and round. So from tattoo shop to financial services. I started off in yeah, absolutely. So I started off in private health insurance, worked for a guy in Birmingham, and then moved down to where I live now, in Cirencester, to work for another company, start a department there, and then eventually went out on my own with an old colleague, and we set up an insurance broker together. Started to grow the business and started to do more protection and life insurance, and then both got qualified in mortgages. And that was really a turning point for me in my career, just because mortgages is such a weird industry in that it's very, very paper based. It is changing now, but when I did it, it was heavily paper based. No online signatures, it was all, you had to travel and sit in front of people. Would have been terrible in the pandemic. So I decided to, I was always into design. I was always a bit of a creative guy. I've always wanted to solve problems with it. So I ended up building a proof of concept for a digital mortgage application, basically. And long story short, I sold the idea to a company in London, which broke me. It was such hard work, 15 months building software, traveling to London 4 days a week, working probably 18-hour days, 7 days a week for 15 months. Just broke me. And it was a bit of a turning point in my career. And that was the point where I decided to actually do what I wanted to do all those years. And that's kind of what got me here now.
And with what you do now, so explain to everybody what you do now.
So I, in its very, very simplest form, when we run a business, we often start a business, we get really confident, we grow, and then as soon as we hit a problem, we go to one of two things. There's a problem with sales or there's a problem with marketing. And I believe that neither of those are actually, fixing neither of those will solve the long-term problem. What you actually need to do is look at the very, very foundations of the business. And I call this branding. So a lot of people will know branding for, it's such a broad statement, branding. It's it's one of those things where someone who prints logos on mugs will call that branding. Someone who designs social media posts will call that branding. Coaches and consultants, when they talk about mission and vision and values and all these things, the strategy of a business, they call that branding. And it's all correct, actually. It's just not any singular one. It's the group of all those things. So as a quick breakdown, I break down branding into four elements: strategy, messaging, behaviors, and identity. And when you align all four, that's when you have a successful business, because you, your people, and your clients are dependent really on being confident in your brand. And when you have that, you have success. So that's so I work with small businesses and startups that are in the pre-funding stage to align how they look to how they feel and how they sound, and align that to the strategy of the business. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. And when you kind of, with family life and with your business, what's it been really, really like? Because you've got children now. Is that hard?
Yeah, it is hard. It's it's a real juggle of balance, and you have to be really kind to yourself sometimes, and it can be really hard. I don't think I don't think you realize until you have kids just how hard it is. You know, the lack of sleep, which has a knock-on effect to other things as well, health-related, and the way that you eat and how much you exercise, all that stuff. You know, how much you can concentrate, so how many calls you can do, and how much, you know, especially being in the creative world, I really need to focus on design. You know, that takes some real focus time, non-interruption, and all those things, and that's really hard on 3 hours sleep. You know, less than 3 hours of sleep a night for a certain period of time. So yeah, it's tough. And then obviously because you're tired, your body says you need stuff, you need energy, so you end up like overeating, and you don't get to exercise because you're always looking after a kid. And there's just so much that goes into it and that's involved. You just.
But I bet you wouldn't change it for the world, though, Danny.
Say that again.
I bet you wouldn't change it for the world, though, will you?
Oh, exactly. And I think as long as you get and you understand that the bad stuff is also part of the process, and pain is never forever, really. It's always temporary. It might last a minute or it might last 15 years, but it's temporary. And as long as you're working towards the better, then you really should give yourself a break, I think. Put ourselves down more than we lift ourselves up, and that kind of needs to change, I think.
Okay, so when people contact you, what can you offer
them? I can make it so that one of the biggest things I get asked about is messaging. So the 4 parts of branding I mentioned: strategy, messaging, behaviors, and identity. Identity is usually the thing people go to first because it's the first thing that their clients see. You know, the logo, the colors, the fonts, the things, the graphics. It's the first thing that clients see. However, it should be the last thing that you do in your business, because unless you know who you are, who your market is, where you fit, how you're going to communicate with them, there's no point in designing something that communicates that to anyone, because you don't know it. So I often get asked about, most people know what they want out of their business. Most people know the goals that they're working towards, but they struggle to communicate that in a way that compels people to buy from them. So a lot of what I do is around messaging. So if people was to contact me today, it's likely that we'd have a conversation about the main, most urgent problem that you have in the business, and then we'd figure out a way to solve it with branding and design. And the majority of people I deal with will start off with messaging, because people will buy from a competitor over you, even if they have a rubbish product, purely based on the fact that they can communicate it clearer. And that's a bizarre thing to get your head around. So I'm going to say it again. People will buy a rubbish product or service from your competitor because they can communicate it clearer.
And how's that?
Because if an IT service provider, even if you went to an IT service provider and said, I want to buy from you, and they said, okay, we do internet at this megabytes per second, and we have servers in these places that run, you know, with SSL security and all this kind of stuff, you would be baffled. And you'd kind of go, okay, so I'm paying you for what again? But if they was just to tell you that they can run your website, telephone system, and home internet, and it will stay secure, and no one will ever hack you, or you'll never get a virus, all of a sudden, the whole thing that they do has been simplified to a point where you understand what the benefit is to you. So you can be the best thing in the world, but if you cannot communicate to someone why they should buy from you over someone else, then you will lose business. And that is pretty much 80% of the battle. And yet we focus so much on things like logos and stuff, which is should come after.
Right, okay. Some people, though, when they start up a business, what they do is they just rush into it, don't they? And when you rush into a business, you know, sometimes it doesn't even work. You know, they think, oh well, I'm going to sort my own. I'm going to do my business. Like I I ran a cleaning company once years ago, and I thought, oh good, I'll get some contracts, then all the money I stick it in my pocket, and that would be it. That's what I thought, but it's not. And many people, when they go into business, they don't think about what's next. What's going to happen, and
Mm.
the brand. Then they don't think about customer service. They don't think about. They just go into it, with their eyes closed. Do you agree?
Kind of, yeah. You can hear some fighter jets going over my house. Yeah, literally fighter jets over my house.
Oh,
I live near a few army bases, RAF bases, and I would say that's really loud, isn't it?
gosh, we're at war.
Come on. Yeah, so I live near some army bases, and they recently, actually more recently than ever, it seems constant. I'm flying over. I get like big, them big tank carrier, um, massive planes. They go flying over all the time.
Oh,
Jets and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, yeah, I think if I think back to when I first tried to start a business, one of the first businesses I went into was when I was about 19, and I went through the Prince's Trust to start an eco-friendly print and design business. This was before eco was like a fashion thing. And it was around the time where the government first introduced things like FSC on paper, like the Forestry Commission certification and stuff. And I thought, oh, maybe I could, just do the eco-friendly stuff, and that would kick off. And I went through that process, and they guided me through business planning and finance and operations and all those things. But not everyone does that. So what they tend to do is have an idea, start a business, generate some money, and then it doesn't take that long before it goes two ways. It either doesn't do well and they lose confidence and stop, or it does really well, and it does so well that actually they're so busy doing the work, they can never step back and say, okay, what do I do next? Like, where's the problem? Where's the bottleneck? And how do I solve this problem? They just don't get around to it because they're so busy. And the ones that don't get busy end up just losing the confidence and closing. And that's the disparity between those two things is so big. It's hard to see what to do next. And I felt that before. And, my wife runs a business as well, and she's felt it before. I think it's something we all go through. There's, I think, a big message in this part of the conversation is we have to get used to asking for help, no matter how hard it might be. Because it took me a while, but you'd be surprised how generous people are, and how willing people are to help you. So yeah, hopefully that gets across to people who are maybe watching or listening to this. Go ask for help. I promise you, it's not the worst thing in the world.
no, it's not. No. And anyway, I had to go to this business course in the end, and I thought that was a great help. So, but if I was you, if anybody's listening or watching, please be careful when you start a business, because it's not all what it's cracked up to be, and you need to do it properly. When you don't get in contact with like the Inland Revenue or other or the tax office or anything, then you'd be getting yourself into quite a lot of trouble.
Yeah, if anything, like, if you know from the beginning this is part of running a business that I am not good at, get rid of it as soon as you can. Like, I'm a creative guy. I don't do spreadsheets or numbers at all. I will shy away from it. I literally shut down as soon as I open a spreadsheet. My brain just goes, I cannot deal with this. It's just so overwhelming for me. So if you can understand that about something, about yourself, about running a business, get rid of it. Like, the first person I paid money for ever was an accountant. for that reason. I
Yeah, I
literally
got
started
one.
a business, and on day one, I went, I need help. Can you sort my numbers out? And that was it. Gone.
Yeah, I got an accountant in the end.
Yeah, it's great. Just fill the gaps of stuff you're not good at or can't do as soon as you can.
Yeah, keep putting zero in.
Yeah.
No, don't. So I hear also that you're a cartoonist. Is that right?
No, I think if I had to say professionally, no.
Right. Okay.
I love cartoons, so I have a real affinity for my childhood and love cartoons. Literally think Pokemon was the best thing invented. Grew up watching Japanese animated film, so yeah, it became a big part of my childhood that I carried through to adulthood, and it's almost like a little gateway to being creative again. You know, there's the Japanese have such a wild culture that that the ideas and the things that come out of their brains into the world in real life is fascinating. So I try to tap into that every now and again when I'm after a bit of inspiration or creativity or and those kinds.
I think I heard the other day that they just kind of like starting to make the flying car, the Japanese.
Yeah, they're trying. I don't think it was. I thought they would have tried already, but I think this is. I think they've probably been working on it for a long time. But this is the first we've heard about it. But yeah, that would be mental.
Can you imagine that car flying in the sky?
It's just bizarre.
Then you can
Absolutely
then
mental.
if people you don't like, you can drop droppings on people and all that. People
Yeah,
like,
we're probably going to get to a point where like you either own a car that drives itself or you own an aeroplane that's just a car really, but you've got to have a pilot's license for it instead of a driver's license.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to contact you, Danny, and any new clients who want to contact you with, how do they do that?
Easiest way is through the website or email. I'm an open book, so my email address is hello@dannyand.co. The website's the same, dannyand.co. That's DANNYAND.co. And yeah, feel free to drop an email, go to the website and have a look at some case studies and work. We predominantly work with pre-funded startups to get them to investment stage and small businesses. Yeah, and they're the perfect kind of clients for us because I know the business and I prefer small businesses to big corporates because we can make decisions faster and create things quicker and make a real impact as soon as possible.
What I want to do, I want to get you back because I know somebody who wants to start a business up. So what I want to do is kind of like, because this is interesting, I will probably get them on live with you halfway through the interview again, and you can give them some advice how to do it, and if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. It'd be fun.
Yeah, you never know, might be a client of yours, it could be a new client. So anyway, Danny, thank you very much for this time. I'll get my wife to contact you with a new date and we can sort that out.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great.
All right. Thank you for your time. And congratulations on the new one.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Right. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Have a great rest of the week.
And you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.